Welcome to Building Better Relationships with Chuck and Barb Lewis, equipping listeners and viewers with the biblical tools to conquer the difficulties faced in this life. Chuck has practiced crisis intervention since the 1980s and has been in ministry together with his wife Barb for over 20 years. They've taken the countless lessons and the knowledge they've acquired and have put them into this life skills class to share with you. We hope this blesses you.
Well, hello again. This is Pastor Chuck Lewis, and this is my wife.
I'm Barbara.
And we've been talking about tools and skills that really help better our relationships. And I tell you, it's an ongoing thing. And I don't know that we ever reach perfection at it, but you know, practice does not make us perfect. Practice makes us better. Yeah. I kind of like to eliminate perfection out of my vocabulary because we're not going to be that way until we get to heaven anyway. So, but we can work at getting better. So today we're talking about a topic that.
Today our topic is going to be about dysfunctional relationships in our family, or dealing with dysfunctional relationships in our family.
Yeah.
And I just want to go over just a few of examples of what that could be. So it could be alcoholism, drinking, drugging by family members, dominance, arguing, toxicity, put downs, sarcasm, jokes at other people's expense, disappointed expectations, anger, criticism, gossip, unpredictability. I mean, those are just a few of the examples that we could deal with.
Right.
And we just want to talk about some ways that we can deal with that and be part of the answer instead of the problem, because we don't have to accept unacceptable behavior.
Right.
And we can't change what somebody else does, but we can change how we react or respond to it.
Yeah.
So you want to talk some, honey, about how we can be part of the answer?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've had a dysfunctional family in growing up in my life, and I know what a lot of dysfunction looks like. And I heard John Bradshaw say one time, he did a lot of psychology speaking. I don't know if he still does that or not, but he said there's usually three great groups of family where he called dysfunction the elephant in the living room. And he said some families completely act like the elephant's not there at all. They just work around it. And
the elephant is the dysfunction.
The elephant's the dysfunction. And the second family decorate the elephant, decorate dysfunction to make it look like part of the furnishings. Yep, that's what we do. Because they need it to look good. They need it to look okay. And they know it's not, but they still try to make it look okay. Now, the third family is like my family in growing up. And they're just blatantly dysfunctional. Bless God, we're dysfunctional. You want to feed this elephant type thing. And they were just right out there. In fact, I remember what my family members used to say to me when I would tell them what they said hurt my feelings. They would say, "Great, I meant that to hurt your feelings." And that's just kind of the atmosphere that I grew up in. So I began to pray and ask the Lord to send me other families that could really teach me how to live in an honoring, respectful way. And the Lord did that. And it's just amazing how the Lord brought this family into my life. And they literally wanted to adopt me. I got to know them when I was 10 years old. And I didn't know that my adopted mom used to cry until I'd come back the next weekend. She didn't want to send me home. She wanted me to stay. And I wanted to stay too.
And these people didn't really adopt you. They were mentoring you.
Mentor me.
They would invite you home with their family on the weekends and just love on you. They didn't really even know they were mentoring you. They were just being themselves.
And they took other kids in too. Yeah. There was other kids around There's probably about 10 of us, I guess, you
Mhm.
know, all, and it was kind of like an unofficial orphanage in some ways because they just love children,
Yeah.
and of course all the children, including me, just love them. But that's how I learned how to live a life of functionality. And I needed to see what it looked like. I needed to hear what it sounded like, and how you treated other people with respect. And Barb, I got so good at it that now people say, I've got a friend of mine that says, if you ever want to see Chuck's disappearing act, just be disrespectful to him and he will disappear every time. And then it's true. I don't stick around and try to figure out why they said that disrespectful thing, or why they have a need to put me down or whatever. I'll just have something else I have to do. Go to the restroom if nothing else. If nothing comes to your mind, you
In
know.
order to take a time out,
Mhm.
like if you start to escalate when things are happening
Yes.
with your family, that,
Yeah.
there's conflict or a fight or whatever, you can take that time out by going to the restroom or going for a walk, getting out for 10 minutes,
Right.
or go be alone in a bedroom and just pray and have some quiet time and regroup your thoughts.
Yeah, because really, all you can do in a dysfunctional setting is you're not going to change anybody else. In all the 50 years of ministry I've been in, and this year of 2024 coming up is going to be 51 years of full-time ministry. I've never seen anybody change somebody else. I've seen a lot of people change themselves,
Yeah.
but you'll never change another person. So maybe you have a family member that is being very disrespectful to you, very dishonoring, loves to say hurtful things, loves to uh, say sarcastic things at your expense. Well, you have to really limit your time with a person like that, because I can consider that person emotionally unsafe. And I think people hurt, other people because maybe they're hurting themselves, or maybe they just feel empowered when they're hurting somebody else. I don't know. There's a lot of different motives, but regardless of what the motive is, you can always take care of yourself.
That's the important message I think that we want to get through today, is that we always have choices.
Mm.
We are not a victim, but we can
Absolutely.
grow up feeling like a victim, like we don't have any power. And when we make our okayness dependent on the other person, we give them our power.
Yeah.
But we take that back when we can decide what we are around. We can decide how to have compassion and love for that person, even in the midst of their dysfunction. And boundaries are about being loving, it's not about isolation.
Mhm.
So, how long or how can I be with this person and still be loving without getting hooked in? And if after an hour you find yourself starting to get hooked by what's going on, then maybe an hour is as long as you need to be there.
Right. Right.
But it's learning to do self-care, learning to do your choices, but we can still be compassionate and caring toward the person that is, say, the alcoholic, or whatever somebody is going through. Usually nobody chooses to be an alcoholic. But it happens because they either have addictive tendencies, or, like I've heard with methamphetamine, you can be hooked the very first time that you take it, and it's really hard to get off of. I've heard of people needing to go through rehab 4 and 5 times to get off that. But so we don't need to judge or criticize them. We can still be loving and kind and take care of ourselves.
Right.
You can still be kind and say no. You can still be kind and have boundaries. Just because you're being kind doesn't mean you're a doormat, or that you're going to subject yourself to abuse.
Right. Right. And we're going to be talking in the other next segment about how God wants your family to operate. And the Lord wants our lives to be functional. He wants us to be productive. He wants us to honor people and respect other people. And I've heard people, oh, gosh, all my life say, well, when people start respecting me, I'll start respecting them. Well, sometimes that works, but most of the time we have to be the example. We have to honor other people regardless of what they do. And it'd be a wonderful world if everybody respected each other and honored each other, but we know we're not living in that kind of world. But we need to be the example. And I love the fact that we can't change anybody but ourselves. But if we choose to start living our life, honoring ourselves and honoring other people and respecting other people, it's amazing what will happen for us. I recently started doing things on purpose. I've always done this a little bit, but on purpose now, if I see somebody going toward a door that I'm going to be there first, is I open the door and let them walk through before me. If it's a man or a woman, it doesn't matter.
So an act of kindness.
Yeah, just an act of kindness. And a lot of guys are really surprised that I wait for them to walk through the door because they think I'm just going to walk through. And women sometimes feel that way too because they're not used to having the door open for them.
Yeah.
But the Lord's taught me to say, and if they say, well, thank you so much, I'll say, you are very welcome. And then I start adding to that because you're worth it. Oh. And that's been an anointed statement because when I started saying that, because you're worth it, I've literally had women, most, I don't think I've had a man do this yet, but I've had women literally begin to start crying right then when I've said, I did that because you're worth it. They were so impacted by that kindness and because of that affirmation that they were overwhelmed by it and literally started crying.
Yeah.
I love to be able to do that, and that's what honor looks like. It's preferring the other person. It's finding things to encourage them with, building them up. If you see something about them that you like, boy, that's a nice looking shirt you have on, or wow, I like your shoes, or I like your boots, whatever it is. Uh, I said to a guy that pulled up the other day in the parking lot, he got out and I said, "Oh man, I love your truck." I said, "That is such a neat truck." And he started telling me all about his truck because he just loved telling me about his truck. See, that's what honor does. It prefers the other person. It's not talking about yourself, but it's putting the attention on to them. And I think, Barb, we're living in a world that is just dehydrated from affirmation right now. And listen to conversations going on among people. I don't know about you, but I don't hear a lot of affirmation.
Right. And so that's a way that we can be part of the answer in our family
Yes.
by being affirming and validating in our families and being kind.
Yeah, and you don't want to affirm the wrong things. Like I think it's okay that if you've got a member of your family coming that has a drinking issue, maybe not having alcohol beverages on your at your home during that event.
Right.
That might be the first thing they ask for, but you say, I don't have any of that, and we're gonna serve these other drinks today, but it's gonna be alcohol free. See, that's your home, and you can set that boundary.
Yeah.
Now they might not appreciate that,
Mm-hmm.
but you're literally saying if you want to drink, you're gonna have to do it somewhere else, because today we're just gonna enjoy each other. Now again, that's not a guarantee they're gonna go along with it, because they can always go to the store and buy some, but but you're setting a boundary, and you're trying to be the example to say, we don't have
Right.
drugs at our house, we don't have booze at our house, whatever you need to set up as a boundary, because this person's going to get out of control
Mm-hmm.
usually if they start partaking of that, and that's how a lot of families get in fights and all kind of
Right.
the chaos
And
breaks out.
so if you're going to someone else's house and they're a family gathering and they're serving alcohol, if it's a problem for you,
Hmm.
you can not go. I mean, if you have issues with alcohol, you can just not go.
Right.
Or you can, if things start to get out of hand, you can always leave because
Hmm.
you can remove yourself.
Yeah.
It's taking care of you.
Absolutely. You can always have, if anything starts, an argument starts up or disrespectful things start being said,
Mm-hmm.
you can always say, you know what, I've got another appointment, or I've got an errand I've got to take care of, whatever, and you just make that visit short. And that's hard, because a lot of families, when they get together, they haven't seen each other for a long time, and they don't want to cut it short. But we're just talking about if you have to.
Yeah.
See, if the
Mhm.
situation merits that, then you can always have a way of escape. In fact, I think in some family situations, it just depends on the dynamics. You might always choose to have it somewhere else instead of your house,
Hmm.
because you can always leave somewhere else, but it's hard to leave your own house.
That's a very good point. And sometimes, if, like us as a couple,
Mm-hmm.
there's been times when we've decided to drive separately. We both still go.
Uh-huh.
But if it's my family, I might want to stay all
Longer.
night,
Yeah,
stay
yeah.
longer and
Right.
just really enjoy it. And maybe after you get tired, you want to be able to go home, have
Yeah.
the freedom
Yeah.
to do what you need to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's good for us to talk about those things ahead of time,
Yes.
to talk about what our expectations are
Mm-hmm.
of this family gathering that we're going to or whatever. And I think sometimes we need to lower our expectations because disappointed expectations can set you up for resentment.
Yeah.
So if things don't turn out the way you wanted them to, you can have disappointed expectations. But I think
Yeah.
that we need to manage our expectations.
Right.
And I think something that we can do to build relationship with family members too is have one-on-one time with people, not necessarily at a big family gathering. I think sometimes it's hard to have meaningful conversation at a big gathering anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in smaller groups or one-on-one is a good way to keep the connection going with family members, and have a more meaningful connection, but not have it all be about that gathering.
Right. Absolutely. And incidentally, if you've got a family member that is addicted to drugs or alcohol or whatever, and boy, they just ruin the party every time. I mean, they just get out of hand. Well, you need support. You need to maybe think about, if you're not already part of a support group. There's a lot of different support groups like Celebrate Recovery. A lot of churches have that group in it where they deal with different types of addictions, and I think they deal with family members of that addicted person as well.
Yes.
And there's a lot of different support groups. You can Google support and just see in your area what is available. And if your church doesn't offer it, maybe call another church, a bigger church that might have a bigger congregation that might offer other resources like that. Because there's always help available if we look for it hard enough.
Yeah.
And boy, you definitely need support in dealing with that, because it's like, dealing with dysfunction is kind of like grieving a loss, because you're thinking, man, our family could function just fine if it wasn't for this one person or whatever. They have so many problems, and they take it out on everybody else when we get together. Well, you need support for that. You need to get ideas You need to hear other people experiencing the same thing. And what do they do? How do they cope with that? See, that would really benefit you. And I think there's even sponsors and groups
Mhm.
like that too, that you
Yeah.
can be accountable,
Somebody to walk through it with.
yeah, to that sponsor. And if you get a toxic sponsor, that when you mess up, they really take it out on you and really beat you up over it emotionally. We'll get a different sponsor, because that's not being a good
Yeah.
sponsor. So, we've got to close today, but we just want to encourage you that God understands what you're going through. He understands your family member that's in trouble. He wants your family to function as a wonderful, connected family. And that's what you can pray for. Lord, I've never had that, and I never did either, but God gave that to me. And God is no respecter of persons. He loves you the same as He loves me and Barb. And He can provide for you the same way. So let us know how we can pray for you. Put your comments in there, and we'd like to know what's going on in your life. God bless you. Thanks so much for being with us today, and we'll see you next time.
If you are blessed by this ministry, please subscribe, like, and share. You can also make donations at chucklewisministries.com. Join us to keep uncovering the tools to build better relationships together. Let's do this again next week.